Good morning and welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport. Recording this on Friday morning. How are you, James? Happy you're not a Tottenham fan?
Morning, Luke. Morning, everyone. Yes, very happy. Not a Tottenham fan. I have had some text messages last night and this morning regarding Tottenham and from Arsenal fans especially. But for an Arsenal fan, you think it's Christmas, everything, happy birthday, everything. Could win a title and send Tottenham down. On the other hand, you've got Millwall fans who are laughing as well at the moment, thinking they could get promoted and Tottenham going the other way. So, yeah, it's interesting times in football.
Okay, well, let's touch on that game in a little while. We'll sort of go through this week's Premier League games that have happened. So, our games Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll go through it in order, just pick out a couple of points from each game that sort of noticed. Let's start with Bournemouth-Brentford. Bournemouth were desperately unlucky not to beat Brentford there. Brentford have this habit at the moment of just not turning up at times. And Bournemouth have obviously hit the post twice, have had other chances. They had I don't want this to be an episode just about VAR and referees, but we're seeing every single game at the moment, big decisions, just strange decisions at that don't really make a lot of sense. In that game, there was like a through ball cross to Tavernier and he was clipped. He's ended up hitting the post with the sort of shot, but he was clearly fouled. And VAR have looked at it or not looked at it, and in terms of making a decision that it should have been a penalty. It's just inexplicable.
It's just nonsense, really, isn't it? It's just because he's taken a shot and he's taken a shot and he's hit the post. They've kind of ignored it and just gone, "Oh yeah, referee's cool. We'll get on with it and hope and hope that it goes away," kind of thing. It's not a big incident in the game. But I just don't get how they can't make the decision right or wrong, and they're saying that they don't want to re-referee games. As I say, we say it till we're blue in the face all the time. Just make VAR right or wrong. It's pretty black and white. That was a foul anywhere else on the pitch. In the penalty area, it's a penalty. It doesn't matter if Tavernier's got a shot off and it's hit the post. He's fouled, he's clipped. He's gone down and it's just, anyway.
I think the problem with it is it wasn't necessarily intentional, but
Yes.
as you say, it would be a foul anywhere else. And I think that one problem in terms of the black and white and just make the right decisions is that there is a lot of these that are somewhat subjective. So you almost need to have some opinion to fall back on. If there's plenty of times where you're just a little bit undecided by decisions that happen, or situations, particularly fouls and that sort of thing. But I was amazed that wasn't given, and it just sort of again sets a tone for the week with that game. But Bournemouth are beginning to show signs of form. Brentford very, very inconsistent. They didn't turn up against Brighton, and then they'll go and beat Villa and Newcastle away. It's one of the problems you have a little bit when you're not a great team, and you maybe been overperforming a little bit. Is your ups and downs are pretty big. Everton
I
beat
think that's it
Burnley.
also as well because of the standard of the players. They can't always perform at their top level. And when they do perform at the top level and all 11 of them play well, then you see those performances like against Villa and Newcastle. But when you're slightly off, you see the performances on Tuesday night against Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth away isn't an easy game. It's not an easy game. Bournemouth have an upturn in form in recent weeks. So it's not these players aren't like the top of the top. They're decent because they're Premier League players, but they can't always expect it to play. And I think that highlights your point that it's quite hard to read them at times.
So Everton, pretty comfortable win against Burnley. Another set-piece goal to open things up. Just incredible. Tarkowski header. I think one thing that's interesting is Burnley are really struggling against set pieces at the moment. Brentford scored a couple of them against them the week before as well. Just not a very good team, Burnley. I know they've had these comebacks recently, but they're still not a great team. Weirdly, that was a game where there wasn't many contentious decisions, James. Very few and far between.
And I did like Tarkowski celebrating against his old club. This business of not celebrating your old clubs is just it's a fair play, James Tarkowski.
Let's touch on Leeds Sunderland. A massive win for Sunderland, not one they particularly deserved. Leeds will come to comfortably the better team for large parts of that game. Now, the one incident that you have to talk about was 09 on strike throw from a set piece, and 09's got him round the neck and basically almost slammed him to the turf. It's just ridiculous that you could possibly watch that on a replay and not give that as a penalty. And it's 0-0 at the time. It just, Leeds are in trouble. If you look at that league table now, they are slap bang in this relegation race. I think they're trading at 7.6 on Betfair for relegation markets. That game could change the fortunes of the club.
Yeah, so they're on 31 points. They're 6 behind Brighton, who are a place above them in 14th. These referees it's kind of almost been accepted that you can do whatever you want at corners and free kicks anymore, well, especially corners in the 6-yard box. You can essentially do what you want. You can foul, you can pull, as long as you don't do violent conduct in terms of pushing someone in the face or elbowing. You can literally be WWE.
But you can't be grabbing people around the neck like that in like a headlock type of.
Again, he's not even concentrating on the ball. He doesn't even know where the ball is. He's not even looking at it. It's just. But the referees have made a rod for their own back because it hasn't been stamped down on at all at the start of the season. And now teams know they can get away with it because you can basically say, well, you didn't do this last week or this week. Why are you suddenly re-refereeing the game again? And the referees know that as well. They can't suddenly say, oh, by the way, we're now going to clamp down it with, 9 games left of the season? They're not going to redo it. So the season will continue like this. And then hopefully you'll see during the summer there'll be a directive, which normally is Howard Webb and his merry men. How has he done a job? They get together with managers, coaches, captains, whoever you like, during the start of the season or pre-season, and they give 4 or 5 directives, like whatever it is. It can, whatever. They do it every season. And I expect there'll be a big thing on how they manage corners. And we talked about it. As soon as the ball is put in a corner spot or anything like that, as soon as the ball is put down for a free kick, the game is live. In terms of you shouldn't be able to hold, push, pull. The game is absolutely live. It can't be where the game's not live, essentially, so you can do what you want because the ball's not in play. It needs changing, but it won't be changed this season.
I think
if you do it in Europe, by the way, they will give penalties. We've seen them give soft penalties in Europe for these kind of things. So you've got to be very careful if you're playing European football, continue doing this, just whatever. But it needs stamping out. It's ruining the sport at the moment.
I think the ones that really, really annoy me at the moment, though, as you touched on, the ones where players aren't even looking. So we had it with Saliba, we had it with Gabriel this week. We'll come on to that one. But there's so many times that players aren't even looking at the ball and they're just concentrating on taking players out. How is that not a foul? It just doesn't even begin to make any sense. Anyway, Leeds desperately unlucky, I thought. Poor from Rodon, the penalty gave way for handball. Just so unnecessary. And these are the things that happen when you're down there, is you don't take your chances and you miss the opportunity to win games comfortably that you should be winning. And then that must be a contender for the worst penalty you'll see this season. I mean, I don't know how Darlow's not saved it.
Yeah. Poor.
I mean, it was really, really poor.
There's nothing other word to describe it. It's shocking, yeah. You'd be annoyed if an under-18 keeper missed that or an under-15 keeper missed it, yeah.
So let's touch on my favourite game of the week, James. Wolves 2, Liverpool 1. Where do we begin with this? So just put some sort of context on the game. It's one of the worst first halves of football you will ever see. Absolutely dire. And then literally came alive in the last 15 minutes. Wolves didn't have a shot on goal in that first half, didn't have a shot. It was just, the game was dire
Wolves' first shot was the 78th minute
when Gomez
But-
scored.
when Gomez scored. I don't blame him. Well, Liverpool should have scored because Gakpo decided to be a Wolves player.
What a
And
clearance. What a clearance.
He and Gravenberch should not be playing for Liverpool Football Club again this season. Gravenberch's performance was downright awful. It was beyond awful. 6 duels contested, 6 duels lost. He was lucky to stay on the pitch, could have easily been sent off. Lazy, lack of attitude. He needs to spell on the bench, and probably not even on the bench, go and sit in the stands for a while, believe in his own hype. And he's only playing because, in my view, the manager is Dutch, his nationality. Gakpo, the same. Absolutely horrible performance again from him. Clearly not good enough. And that new contract they gave him in September, October is looking, well, unless you're protecting his value. And as I said last week or this week on Monday, hopefully that Bayern Munich are stupid and come and offer him some money. But anyway, yeah, Liverpool slow,
difficult, James, just quickly, difficult when he's on, 250,000 a week?
Something like that. That's why you can see the likes of Curtis Jones are annoyed that they're not playing when these two are continually stinking the place out. But Liverpool are slow there. I think they're the second worst coach side in the Premier League. Now, that takes some doing, but the worst coach side, obviously, is Tottenham at the moment under Tudor, but he's only been there 3 games. But Arne Slot's been there 20 months, and Liverpool are the worst coach side in the Premier League. He's trying to play this formation where you are asking the 2 wide players, he calls wingers, to stretch the play and beat players. Well, Gakpo's never done that in his career and not got the ability. And then you're asking Mo Salah to go and play wide right and get paint on his boots, beat a fullback at his age, and then get closer to the goal, and now be your most creative threat because Wirtz is out injured, and then score goals. You're asking impossible job for him. And no wonder he can't do it at the moment. He's lost that yard of pace. He's got no confidence. I understand that. But this goes back to a couple of years ago when Liverpool played that inverted rubbish under Trent Alexander-Arnold because he threw his toys out the pram wanting to play midfield. And they asked Mo Salah to play wide right and he had another bad season or 18 months. And everyone's going, oh, he's now finished. And then last season, he plays in an inside forward where he's closer to the goal, he can influence the game more, and he has the all-time great Premier League season. So Slot's tactics are just nonsense. And their lack of effort in that game at times from everyone on that pitch in a Liverpool shirt was absolutely shocking. It really was. And they deserved exactly what they got. And fair play to Wolves, who in the last recent weeks have been brilliant under Rod Edwards. And because they're down, essentially. They are down, barring a huge miracle. They've drawn, obviously, against Arsenal. They beat Villa, they beat Liverpool in 2 home games. It's remarkable the job he's doing, and fair play to Wolves. They've got some real good players for the Championship as well. So they could, they've got some Joao Gomez, good player. Mateus Mane looks a heck of a talent. So
it's just Gomez, Bueno.
Yeah,
Bueno, Gomez.
Could they stay up? Probably not, but they're not the worst team in the Premier League at the moment.
I think what we said months and months ago, the thing about with Edwards was they weren't going to stay up. He had an impossible job. It was more a case of getting them into a position to come back up. And it feels like with likes of Strand Larsen leaving, they brought Armstrong in, who looks like he'll do a job, really good job for them in Championship, and just position that team more effectively for when they do come back up. And, out of the teams who are going to go down, you would Wolves look different class to Burnley do, for example, in terms of those teams who do come back up. So I think Edwards has done a great job positioning Wolves, or trying to position Wolves to come back up. What will be interesting is if they can maintain it over these last 8 games I think they have left. I do want to touch on Liverpool just quickly because you send me messages saying, Slot, how badly this team is coached. And the message I always send back to you is attitude. I've said this for months and months and months, and I think this is one of the problems you have after you've won a title and everyone's in a comfort zone, and they're not able to win the title now. And I honestly don't think a top 4 or 5 finish is as important to the players as it is to the club. It feels much, it sounds, it is massively important for Liverpool to be in the Champions League as a club. But I don't think for the players, they are as bothered about that as they would be if they were in a title race in terms of getting up for every single game. And I just remember it early in the season. They weren't turning up week in, week out. And it was an attitude and effort thing in terms of tracking back and all those sorts of, the difficult things where you have to really, really put the effort in. And they weren't doing it. And then suddenly Real Madrid turned up at Anfield. And what happened? Liverpool's effort levels went through the roof, and it was their best performance in months when they beat them. And they deserved to beat Real Madrid. And I watched that game on Monday night, and the effort levels just aren't there. And, young Rio will take some flack for that second goal, but you can't be doing what he did for that second goal. It was a poor kick out by Alisson. But you can't just not make the effort to get back and challenge. It's just inexcusable. And yes, he might be a young lad, and he'll learn from it. But I think it's more a systematic sort of demonstration of where this Liverpool team is at in terms of attitude at the moment under Slot.
Yeah, I agree with you. The attitude, I said on Monday, you need to match Wolves' attitude, and they didn't at times. And the two main culprits are Gravenberch and Gakpo. It's just the laziness of them. Just watch them when they run around. They're not running half the time. They're not getting back in position. They're not tracking back. Their pressing is nigh on.
I would throw McAllister in there as well. He's been average this year.
He's been average. He just hasn't recovered from that hernia operation he had in the summer, missed all the pre-season, and that's a Dutch way of coaching. If you miss pre-season, you don't actually get any chance during the season to get your match fitness back. And Slot's constantly back home in Holland as well, on days off during the week. It's just, anyway, I don't think they're going to change the manager now. They were, I think, going to change the manager after the debacle in October, November time. I think now they're going to wait. They're going to pray somehow they get to top 5. I don't think they will under Slot, and they will change the manager come what may. Even if they somehow win the Champions League, you can forget the FA Cup. For a club of Liverpool statue, the FA Cup isn't a reason to keep your coach. There's just not a reason. If they win the Champions League, I don't still think you can keep him. He's shown in.
Are you saying you're better than Man United?
Yes.
A lot. I mean, all roads point to Alonso in the summer, don't they?
They do. There will be other people there that Liverpool are looking at, though. They will do their due diligence. But yeah, I can see Slot going to somewhere somewhere in Italy or Barcelona, or dare I say something like that, if Hansi Flick gets sacked there. I do think he'll be. But at the moment, his tactics playing for Liverpool aren't, and his comments as well, just about youngsters. His comments yesterday in the press conference for the FA Cup game tonight. You can see he's under massive pressure there. You know it, just the way his attitude is on and off the pitch. It's, not a good time to be a Liverpool fan at the moment.
It feels like, we've touched on this before, but it definitely feels like they decided there weren't any other better options out there. So whereas teams like United took the plunge to get rid of Amarin, Tottenham did the same with Frank, it just felt like Liverpool couldn't see a scenario where there was anything better than what Slot could provide at the moment.
Yeah, and they didn't want to appoint a interim manager, dare I say it, like a Gerrard or someone like that, that somehow gets top 4 or 5, and then you have the decision again of that United got at the moment, that Liverpool had under Dalglish. And this business, I've heard it all this week, that Liverpool don't sack managers. Well, that's absolute nonsense under FSG, because Klopp obviously left, so he left on his own thing. Before that, they sacked Brendan Rodgers in an October of the season, so they do sack him. They sacked Kenny Dalglish in the summer when they appointed him for 6 months, 15 years ago, whenever it was now, in January, then he won the League Cup, then they should have sacked him, but they gave a job, FSG renew. They sacked Roy Hodgson after 6 months before they appointed Dalglish. So that needs to be put to bed. Liverpool sack managers. So if they wanted to sack Slot, they would have done. But as you say, I don't think they had the person they wanted to take charge, wasn't available, wanted some time off, or whatever it was. We won't know the story. And they're waiting till the end of the season before they get the person they want in. I'm pretty sure that there will be a change of manager regardless of what happens at the end of the season.
Okay, let's move on to Wednesday. I don't really want to talk about Villa-Chelsea. Pretty depressing match, to be honest. Chelsea looked good. I'm not sure. I've been a massive defender of Emery. I don't think he got his team selection right. I can't be having Tyrone Mings anywhere near the starting lineup ahead of Torres. And I think Watkins needs to be taken out of the firing line. He is so short of confidence, it is untrue. And he's just wasting so many good chances at the moment. Where he's one-on-one and then ends up getting a scuffed shot away. And, he's obviously been unlucky in the goal that was disallowed. And, we talk about fine margins in these games. Villa have the chance to go 2-1 up, obviously offside by a toenail or, a foot miles away from goal. One of my favourites. And then Chelsea go at the other end and, a very tight offside again goes in Chelsea's favour. Obviously, great finish from Pedro. But, the margins are so fine. And I think if Villa had gone back up 2-1, the outcome clearly would have been very different. Chelsea got a bit of confidence just before half-time and then they were able to pick Villa off. And ugly. And, these Villa fans are so entitled. Villa is still fourth or whatever. And, I see so many people slate their transfer signings and all these sorts of things. And it's like, the hands are tied behind the back in terms of what they can do. Some of these transfers aren't simple transfers in terms of, we like this player, we're going to buy this player. They're having to do stuff for financial fair play reasons. They're having to sell players they don't want to sell. They are having to juggle so many things in the air. And, there was an interesting story this week where Arsenal may have to look to sell a player to fund some more transfers in the summer. And it's like, well, when you've got Arsenal spending £200 million plus every single summer or every year and not having to sell anyone, and then you end up with Villa literally can't buy anyone. It just feels like such a broken system and how we've ended up in this, and that doesn't even include all the players Villa have sold. They had to sell Louise. They sold Diaby. They sold Duran. These guys, some of these guys were for massive money. They had to sell Grealish, obviously. And it just gets pretty tiresome. And you look at Chelsea and you look at all the players they had on the pitch and on the bench on Wednesday night, and it's just a different game. And these Villa fans just moan. And, it's just so tiresome.
You're lacking a bit of confidence at the moment. And I go back to it and you go back to it. There's 3 key injuries in the middle of the park. They're not just players, they're leaders as well. Tielemans, Kamara and McGinn. They're leaders in the middle of the park. And your players are going through a bit of confidence loss. And it's amazing how little things like that offside, if Watkins just delays his run by half a millisecond, puts it away, and it's 2-1, the game completely changes. You say fine margins, the crowd down, you're 2-1 up, and then Chelsea go the other end and get the goal before half time. Yeah, Chelsea playing. Jorgensen with the big news. He replaced Robert Sanchez in goal. He's even worse than Sanchez. Absolutely terrible. They need to go on upgrading the keeper massively in the summer, Chelsea do. See, Palmer scored an open play goal. That makes a difference for him. Yeah, it's just one of those things for Villa. It's just going through a bad spell. I wouldn't be too... You're still in a great position. That's not...
I mean, that's it. They are still in it. This is it, right? They are still in a great position. And this is what the fans forget. You would have absolutely snapped the hands off for this position at the start of the year, given everything that went on, particularly even after those 5 games at the start of the season as well. It's just so annoying. One thing I would say...
Europa League as well. So you've still got you've got 2 eggs as well to try and get in Champions League next season that Villa fans that I've seen, not yourself, but other people forgetting about as well, that your favourites for Europa League as well. So you got 2 eggs to try and get in Champions League. It's not all doom and gloom. There's far worse teams out there than Villa at the moment.
One thing I will just touch on Jorgensen. So I was of the belief that obviously, Chelsea should have signed a goalkeeper last year in the summer. And it was
Well, they
there.
tried to, didn't they? They tried to sign Mandigan from AC Milan, but they wouldn't pay the money, did they?
Yeah, but that's the point. Get the deal done, right? It's a hugely important position. They knew Sanchez wasn't the answer. I know they rate Penders really, really highly. I mean, I haven't seen that much of him. I saw him have a couple of blunders, which he got away with. I think it was against Palace.
Yeah,
In
Strasbourg he
Conference League.
plays for. He plays for
And,
Strasbourg with Chilwell.
he had a couple, I know he's very highly regarded. And it was almost as if they're almost waiting a year for him to be ready. But that's a year's a long time in football. It could be the difference between them making the Champions League and not, this goalkeeping situation. Anyway, let's
I think you have 1 point on Chelsea. Joao Pedro. That's a
yes.
brilliant hat trick. And he's turning out to be a fantastic buy for Chelsea. Now, we said, didn't we? We didn't think he was a proper 9, so it was a 9.5/10 kind of thing. But Crumbs, yeah, he's had a mighty impressive last 3 or 4 months. He's carrying that goal scoring burden for Chelsea. Yeah, mighty impressive signing. He's a good player, full stop. And he can play, but, he can play back to goal. He has proved that this season. So, yeah, fair play, Joao Pedro there. The one sign that Chelsea got right recently.
I'll say it. Confidence. He scored those 2 goals away in Europe in that Champions League game away at Napoli. 2 really good finishes. And honestly, he hasn't looked back since. And you saw it even with his the second goal against Villa after the through ball where he just dinked over Martinez. It's just a brilliant finish. And if you're struggling with a bit of confidence, you don't score that. And he's making it look so easy. He's also helped by the fact he's getting some easy goals as well. So he couldn't miss a couple of those goals. But it all adds up to that overall confidence. He's in the right places at the right times. And as you say, I mean, just hats off to him. He's been really good.
And one thing as well, blow my own trumpet here a little bit. The corners from Villa, defending corners, when they send 3 or 4 players up the pitch.
4. We sent 4 up. And you know what? It worked. They didn't look like scoring from corners, and there was so much space in that penalty box. And what was interesting was on more than one occasion, Villa looked really threatening going the other way from those.
Yeah. And I've been calling about it for months, on and off this pod. If you send players back on the halfway line, the opposition have an issue. How many players they send back and which players they send back. And Chelsea didn't know. The Chelsea have tried it as well, but Villa sending 4. And then, as you say, counter-attack and things like this. And you just don't, you allow your big, strong goalkeeper, your aerially dominant goalkeeper in Martinez to come out and clear everyone out. You don't have to foul in the area. The referees can look at less players in the area. Teams need to wake up and do it.
And the blocks and stuff on the goalkeeper become so much more obvious.
Yeah, because there's less players in the box, so the referees can actually concentrate. Yeah, it's brilliant. I wouldn't be surprised if teams look at it and go, right, this is what we need to start doing.
I mean, we've said it for months. They need to do it. It's the way forward. Whilst the rules are as they are,
yeah,
it's what you need to do. Brighton Arsenal. I don't quite know where to begin with this because, I mean, an amazing result for Arsenal. An absolutely terrible performance from Arsenal. And you obviously have this situation where, for a lot of Arsenal fans, obviously it's just about results at the end of the day. No one will remember this performance, and they probably won't, to be fair. I said Arsenal were the unwatchables probably a month ago now, and I absolutely maintain they are a horrible, horrible football team to watch. They might be mightily effective. I think they're also having a lot of good breaks at the moment. You only have to look at the Saka goal. I mean, that is horrendous from Verbruggen, who is just not a great goalkeeper. They've literally been gifted the goal. Brighton were the better team for most of that game. And we touched on it earlier in terms of penalties. Brighton should have had a penalty. The Brighton player was wrestled to the ground when the defender's not even looking at the ball. It's just ridiculous how, and they've gone and looked at it and they've still decided that it's not a penalty. It's like, what? You know,
Yeah, it's just smash and grab almost from Arsenal, isn't it? Did I get a cheap goal and then hold on, not play well? People say it's a sign of champions not playing well, grinding out results. But it's just one of those things, and they're somehow doing it this season. They're not a very good side, I don't think, Arsenal at all. They're just the best of a bad bunch. They won't care, Arsenal fans, and probably why should you? I'm an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't care. I did like Hertzler, obviously, in the press conference coming out and saying referees need to have a look at all the time wasting, the incidents in the penalty areas and things like that, and during the game as well. So he backed it up during the game as well and after the game as well. So he had a proper rant. And it's good, finally, that manager's highlighting the issues we've been talking about. So, yeah, it's just a win for Arsenal on the road, isn't it? They've won 3 big, important games in the last 3 weeks after a little bit of a wobble they had. Not a wobble, but you know what I mean? Two draws at Brentford and at Wolves even, sorry. They've come out and they've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Tottenham, and they've beaten Brighton.
it's a very, very good week for their title chances.
Yeah.
I mean,
one thing on Saka. Well, 2 things, actually. So, has he been developed that well by Arteta in recent years? I don't think he has at all. I think he's regressed as a footballer since he first came on the scene, 7 years ago now? As whatever. And has he played too much football now? He's 25, 26. And I look at these other youngsters like Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I look at even going back to Wayne Rooney, who's almost finished at 26, 27. He's played so much football at such a young age that when you get to 26, 25, 26, your body starts letting you down. He's obviously had a few niggles and recovering from injuries, but I haven't been impressed by Saka at all in the last 18 months, 2 years at all. I don't think he's improved as a footballer at all. I think he's stagnated. Thoughts?
agreed. I think where it's interesting under Arteta, and this is one of the criticisms I would have of Arteta, and not been so much this year actually, is that his failure to rotate that team. They've been so dependent on Saka in not this season, but in previous seasons, that I do think he is effectively burnt out. I mean, they always say that, a footballer will have a certain number of matches or minutes, in a career. And now, obviously, if you're starting at 16, 17 as a superstar and you're putting an awful lot of miles on the clock at a very young age, it's little wonder that you get to 26, 27, 28, that you're almost done. I mean, they say these things for a reason in terms of, you can look back at the data and see how many minutes, players play. And you can see that from a young age, if you're playing an awful lot of, top flight football at 16, 17, 18, under huge pressure, in that intensity, it's the intensity of these games at that young age as well. And he looks, I'm not going to say he looks a busted flush, but he just doesn't look a shadow of the player that he was.
Yeah, Barcelona Football Club needs to take note as well, because I hope they don't ruin Lamine Yamal like they've ruined Pedro and Gavi, etc. So, yeah, it's just a conversation I just thought when I was briefly watching a game on Wednesday night kind of thing.
Also, I mean, do you see the chance Brighton missed 3 minutes into that game as well?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's your season when teams are missing chances against you as well. I mean, that game would have been very different. But big win for Arsenal, and it's just tough. I just don't think City are very good, and hence why I think that Arsenal will get over the line. This isn't a great Arsenal team, but they will have just enough. I did have to laugh when I think it was someone on TalkSport, and they were talking about whether Arsenal had been whether they were lucky or. And then they touched on, the FA Cup this week, they have Mansfield, and then they've got Bodo Glimt in the Champions League. It's like you couldn't possibly ask for, more things to go your way this season than Arsenal have.
Rest all their players tomorrow, isn't it? In the FA Cup, isn't it? So they can just almost the under-18s can play tomorrow against Mansfield away at lunchtime. Yeah.
So one game that literally threw the relegation battle wide open was West Ham winning at Fulham. I think West Ham didn't necessarily deserve it on their performance on the evening. It was a game that could have gone literally either way. West Ham's Somerville scored again. He really does look a proper player. After mistake from Leno, it was a game that there was a few contentious decisions in it, and I think a couple of them are quite sort of tricky. So what I don't think was tricky was a Iwobi handball. I don't know how that's not given. He's clearly moved his arm to the ball. It's ended up hitting sort of bicep area. Clear as day, not given. I don't quite know how. The more controversial one is I think it was Castagna was about to shoot, and I think it was Castellanos. I can't quite remember. Got his leg between him and the shot, and the attackers obviously kicked the back of his leg. It was given as a penalty initially, and then they've overturned it. I find these ones I have conversations with other friends about. I find these really, really difficult as to what constitutes a penalty and not. There's a bit of me that says, you don't have to give a player room to take a shot if they're in their shooting motion. But it does feel like it probably is a foul, if I'm honest.
I kind of contradicted myself there, wasn't I? Because they're saying black and white for get VAR right or wrong kind of thing. It's one of those, isn't it? It's just, is it just a natural collision during a game and these things happen kind of thing and you can't, but they overturned it, didn't they?
Overturned it, yeah. I think that's the way I'd lean. I think certain incidents happen where it's completely accidental. I don't think necessarily it's a foul either way type of thing. It just sometimes...
It just happens, yeah. Sometimes it happens. But they overturned it, which is, again, I get to see they overturn that. And they probably got to the right decision in the end, but then they don't overturn a lot of things. And I'm like, how can you get that decision, but you can't get that decision right? Yeah, the Iwobi, by the way, the Iwobi one is just a blatant penalty. And I go, why doesn't the referee just go and watch that straight away? The referee's not seen that now until half-time. He has no idea what exactly has happened, really, because he's kind of blinded by it anyway, where he's waiting for the corner to come in. I just don't get why the referees just don't go away straight away when they know the game's stopped anyway because the ball's gone out or VAR said to him, stop the play. Let's go away, watch it straight away and then make decision rather than an individual or two individuals in the studio in Stockley Park making decision. He's not refereeing the game or she's not refereeing the game on the pitch. So go back to it. I just think it's a penalty. It's a massive win for West Ham. It's absolutely massive for them and makes it interesting down the bottom table, to say the least.
It felt like West Ham were just that 4-point gap to Spurs. It just felt a little bit too big. It just felt like Spurs would just about get away with it in terms of relegation this season, and that West Ham needed to find a win from somewhere. And as I say, they've been unfortunate quite a bit recently, so I don't think anyone would, apart from Spurs fans, would begrudge them those 3 points. Just huge. And then Man City Forest, actually travesty of a result, really. Again, Tottenham fans will be cursing this outcome. City were the better team by miles. City didn't play brilliantly, but they've taken the lead. They've then conceded to. I saw a stat in that game at one point that of that second half, the first 10 minutes of that second half, Man City had 94% possession. 94%. I don't think I've ever seen over 85. And then obviously Forest go up the other end. Gibbs White, brilliant finish, and it was almost a story of the game where Rodri obviously bundled in an equaliser, a goal to put them ahead, and then Anderson fired one in from long range. It was just not destined to be City's night. I think, at 2-1 as well, they had a penalty shout on Haaland. I think that's a penalty. I don't know how it's not given, from the keeper. I just think it's a penalty. And then where the contentious Rodri one at the end with Anderson, and they also had a shot cleared off the line at the last kick of the game as well. A dreadful result for Man City. Great point for Forest. Yeah, just quite a lot to dissect from that game.
I don't like this 4-2-2-2 formation that Guardiola's doing since Semenyo's come in. Another good finish from him, by the way. The ability to use both feet easily from Semenyo sets him apart from a lot of players at the moment. I know he's trying to get closer to help Haaland and reduce the burden on Haaland, but they offer no width whatsoever. Made it easy for Forest at times. It's, as you say, it's just a penalty on Haaland. Just look at Matt Sells, the goalkeeper's reaction. He knows he's touched him, brought him down. Okay, the ball's gone out for a goal kick, but it's just a penalty. It's just, there's nothing more to say about it in my view. And then I think the Rodri one is a penalty as well. Anderson's kicked Rodri. Now, maybe because Rodri fell around and started acting up like a complete so-and-so, that they've gone, there's not enough contact. But they've gone inconsequential contact or something is the actual explanation from VR. Well, what's the difference between that and the one at Anfield when Addison comes out then? Because the ball's got out of play anyway and he's not in control of it. There's no difference at all.
I said this at the time. That one at Anfield, which gave City the win. Oh, not the win, but the penalty. It wasn't a penalty. It shouldn't have been a penalty at the time. I don't see how. I don't know where the keeper was meant to go, and the ball was clearly heading out of play already. And on the one hand, everyone was absolutely adamant. Oh, that's a penalty. As if it was a no-brainer. And, some of this comes from commentators again, in terms of, they're very much the opinion, oh, that's obviously a penalty. Everyone just assumes, oh, that's a penalty. But it didn't look like a penalty to me at the time. And, I think the problem with this Rodri one was the Foden one against Newcastle earlier in the year, which wasn't given, where Foden's had his shot and then he got clattered by the Newcastle defender. And I think, if I remember correctly, the panel came out afterwards and said, I think they said it should have been a penalty. So if you're saying that if a player has a shot and is then fouled, I think what was interesting with this one, I think Dermot in his studio said that he thought it should have been a foul by Rodri on Anderson. I don't know. I just feel confused by some of the stuff we're seeing in terms, it's always about that consistency. It isn't easy. I would say that, but I just feel like there's so many mixed messages as to what is a foul, what isn't a foul. It just drives me nuts. And these are game-changing decisions.
Yeah, poor result, good result for Forest though.
Let's touch on Newcastle, Man United. Remarkable win for Newcastle. Obviously, the big moment was Ramsey getting sent off again. So he got a second yellow card for diving or simulation. That's not a dive. He's not appealed for a penalty. It's just absurd that you can sit here, watch this game, and then you see a decision like that, which had the potential to change that game massively. It was 0-0 at the time. Another massive decision in favour of United. And, it felt like some bit of poetic justice when Osula, brilliant finish in the 90th minute to snatch the winner.
Yeah, it was almost like they just sent him off. He fell over. It was like easy for the referee just to hand out another yellow card, red cards, because that's what you do when you think a player's dived. He just fell over. It doesn't mean he's looking for the penalty. The ball was going out and he just fell over. It's not in my view, it's not a dive.
That's not a dive.
It was also, but then we see the penalty by when Gordon, I think it's Bruno Fernandes who clips him. Now, that's kind of not a proper clip kind of thing. It's just like almost a coming together. Now, it is a foul, don't get me wrong. And anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul. The referee gave the penalty. Gordon got lucky, actually, with the penalty. It's almost like a nervous penalty. Got lucky straight down the middle. But these are the limitations of Carrick, though. When you're playing 4-2-3-1 that he's brought in, they have no wingers because under Amorim, they sold all their wingers. So they sold on the left-hand side especially. They sold Rashford. Well, he's on loan at Barca, won't play again for United. And they sold Garnacho to Chelsea. So they've got no one who can play on the left-hand side. They've got no width there. They're obviously missing Dorgu, who was playing there with a bit of pace there. He could stretch teams, but they haven't got it. They've had 3 average performances in the last 3 games under Carrick. Shows his limitations and almost like the team to work out how they're playing. It's fantastic from Newcastle to be down to 10 men. Joel Linton had his best game in a long time, and Sandro Tonali was absolutely fantastic. Him and Bruno Fernandes were the 2 best players on that pitch by a long way. Tonali's brilliant footballer, really good. If you want a midfielder, there's one to take in the summer as well from Newcastle. And when Eddie Howe's under pressure, he always gets these results. It's a poor performance. And it's a great goal from Osula. And can we just rewind till August, when all the noise we heard about the Liverpool and Isak transfer, that Newcastle wanted 2 strikers because they didn't have any strikers on the bench anywhere at the club. They've got this kid. They've got a striker that they were trying to sell anyway as well for 30 million quid. So it was complete nonsense from Luke Edwards and all the Newcastle journalists up there. He looks better than Reece and Rotomade. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a good result for Newcastle, very good result for Newcastle. Man United, I'm not convinced they should be giving Carrick a full-time job.
Another set-piece goal for United. They've scored a lot of them this year.
Yeah, and briefly, Bruno Fernandes, again, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant footballer. Where would they be without him if they sold him to Saudi?
Good question. Let's touch on Spurs Palace. So, again, pretty wild game. You know, you had the Palace goal that got disallowed for offside because of his nose. Look, it may technically be correct, but again, you know, I touched on this. We're 40 yards out from goal. It just, I don't know. I don't even know what's, you know, one of the problems I have with it is I don't believe the lines that we see. So the lines we see on TV relative to the TV pictures, they don't always mirror up. So the pictures we see aren't necessarily the ones that they're judging on, you know, which is just a comical sort of disconnect. Which why sometimes the foot positions and stuff look wrong, and you know maybe it is technically offside, but it was very unfortunate. On one hand, it was obviously had been a very fortunate finish from Sarr. Anyway, Spurs went up the other end, scored pretty much straight away from Solanke. Great play by Gray, and then the fun and games happened with Van der Ven getting sent off. Sarr scored the penalty. Spurs crumbled at the end of that first half. Went in at 3-1 down, and you know, I mean, Palace didn't play particularly well in the second half, but you know, an absolutely horrific result for Spurs.
Horrific result, as you say. The anxiety in that club from top to bottom, from the board members, the coach, the players, and the fans, is going through that club like knife through hot butter. They have big decisions to make. I think even over Tudor, they're going to have to make some decision over him, because him going from 3 at the back in his first game, then to 4, then to 3, then to 4, it's like hokey cokey. What's going on? He's had no midweek fixes as well, so he's had all week to prepare for this game. And they didn't look too bad for 20, 25 minutes, Tottenham. They didn't look too bad at all. But as soon as that goal got disallowed, I know they went up the other end, and Archie Gray, he is a very good prospect. He is a good player. He can play in numerous positions well. I do like him. Good finish from Solanke. But then the Van der Ven penalty, that just smacks of a team that's panicking, players that are panicking. His first red card, obviously, in his career, he could have easily just left the player go. He's panicking because of the situation Tottenham were in. If they were in mid-table and they were comfortable, or they were going for Champions League, whatever it was, there's no way, in my view, that Van der Ven pulls the player back there. He just wouldn't do it. But he does do it because his mind is telling him, panicking, anxiety, whatever it is, making silly decisions, and the whole club are making silly decisions on and off the field, as I said. And then, Saar laid back, passed it in, and then goal again. Adam Wharton's ball again to Strand Larsen for the first goal, his goal, sorry, and then the pass to Saar for the second goal was just brilliant. He is a fantastic footballer. I worry slightly about his pace as per se, but his ball manipulation, brilliant, Wharton. And then, it's 3-1 and Palace took their foot off the gas in the second half. But, Tottenham are in real trouble. And if they don't get their act together, it's very hard to get out of it. It really is the mindset to get out of it. Players have never been in this situation before. They hear all the noise about the wages, reduction in wages, 50% has been reported. They'll lose all their sponsors. How do you get out of it? Unless you change your manager?
Well, I think Tudor's really interesting to me because you brought him in to firefight, a pretty desperate situation, right? You've identified him as someone you want to come in who has a track record of doing exactly this type of thing, getting a sort of immediate response from a squad. And it hasn't happened. So you look at it and go, have I seen enough from Tudor in these 3 games where you go, are things going to improve? So they were really poor against Arsenal, but that's obviously a very tricky game, right? They were really poor against Fulham. Last night gets distorted because of the red card. So it's difficult to really judge him much on last night, apart from the fact it was a shocking result. So if he's not coming in and getting you instant results, and I don't particularly believe in the new manager bounce, but he's not got anything out of these players. And you look at the way Tottenham are playing at the moment, and they look like the poorest of the 3 teams down there. West Ham have found something really positive, and Forest have sort of bumbling along a little bit. They've had some tricky fixtures. They've getting out of the way. But at least with Forest, they look like they have the quality where they can score goals like the one Anderson scored or Gibbs White. They have those players. I look at that Tottenham team and they just don't have those types of players at the moment. And I honestly think that they'll be having a board meeting this morning thinking, do we make a change? Do we make another change? We cannot afford to get relegated. And it's going to be interesting because they've got Atletico Madrid away, Liverpool away, Atletico Madrid at home. If they were to lose all 3 of those, that would be 8 losses in a row going into that game. Was it March the 22nd against Nottingham Forest at home? Good luck going into a game on the back of 8 straight losses against your main relegation rival, one of.
Yeah, and 11 games without a win, the first time in 50 years in the league as well. So it could go down from the first time since, I think, 76, 77, I think it is. That game is looming very large in 16 days' time, as you say. 22nd of March, home to Forest.
Well,
they have a decision to make.
I mean, one of the problems they have is, so the weekend that they play Liverpool, Forest are home to Fulham. Seems pretty winnable. I mean, West Ham have got a slightly trickier one at home against Manchester City, but the way City are playing, the way West Ham are playing, I would not be surprised if West Ham get something from that game. They would not want to go into that Tottenham game trailing some of these other teams, potentially, like Forest, by, 3-4 points. It becomes, the pressure just ends up ratcheting up so quickly and massively.
Yeah. quickly on one player or two players, I like Archie Gray a lot, and there's a lot of Tottenham players I actually like Liverpool, but I know you like goalkeepers. Vicario.
I just don't rate him. I never have done. And I mean, he started off well at Spurs, but again, difficult decisions have to be made, right? And at what point does Kinski play? And it can't be any worse than what I think the thing with even the second goal that Palace scored is sometimes you need your goalkeeper to stand up and make a big save at a big moment, and that's just gone straight through him. He always looks so small, and it's weird because he's massive. He's not a small guy, but I just cannot quite put it into words how small he looks at times in goal. So many times with a top keeper like a Donnarumma or an Alisson or Martinez or something, they save that with their legs. They get something on that. They keep their team. Alisson has made so many saves of that ilk for Liverpool at really important times. And you look at the third goal, technically, I don't know what he's doing. He's come out almost knees together instead of making himself big, and he's made it just easy for the attacker. It's just a very weird technique that he's used there. And nothing. It always makes me laugh the way he berates his teammates. And I mean, this is one of the problems Tottenham have as well. Is you saw all the carry on with Porro yesterday. I mean, that team's a mess.
It is an absolute mess. I mean, injuries have absolutely killed them this season. They've still got a load of injuries and it's killed them completely. And final point of the game, I think it's Danto on Strand Larsen near the end of the game, penalty, when the referee gives a foul on Strand Larsen on Danto. VAR look at it and it's clear as day that Strand Larsen gets the ball and Danto takes him out. And they go, still give a free kick to Tottenham for the foul. But yeah, another one for our list of refereeing errors.
So don't know if you saw it, but we saw the, and I'm sure Arteta will be fuming that he hasn't been at the forefront of this, but the kickoff technique that Everton used on Tuesday, Brentford have done it before. They did it on Tuesday. Bournemouth did something like this at the back end. I think it was against Newcastle earlier in the season, but so last year, where they're flicking the ball up in the centre circle and then basically punting it high, almost like a rugby up and under towards the edge of the box. It's interesting.
Moving on.
Championship. Talk to me about Championship, James.
So the Championship this week in the Ipswich beat Hull, didn't they? Sorry, I was just looking at the wrong thing.
I think that was Tuesday
night, I think. It was a Tuesday night they beat, didn't they?
Talk about Monday. Let's talk about Monday night first. Birmingham 1, Middlesbrough 3. Target obviously used to play for Villa, scored a couple of goals, giving it a bit large to the Tottenham fans. Just pleasing to see. I think Borough 5 points behind Coventry in second place.
Yeah, so tonight, you got Preston versus Oxford tonight. Oxford obviously down at back in the fight not to get relegated. Hull play Millwall tomorrow, 12:30. Blackburn play Portsmouth in a relegation 6-pointer down there, up at Ewood Park. Sorry. Ipswich play Leicester. So Ipswich are fourth, I think, behind Millwall. Leicester, obviously, we know where they are. Sheffield United versus West Brom. It's Coventry at Bristol City, and QPR play Middlesbrough at Loftus Road on Sunday. One other story from the Championship, James Morrison has been confirmed as the West Brom caretaker until the end of the season. So yeah, it's
there's
two from three.
One other Championship piece of news is the playoffs have been expanded to 6 teams. We did touch on this a couple of weeks ago that it was going through a vote. It's been confirmed. It is happening.
I said what my thoughts are. I don't agree with it. It's just more money for Sky, more money for the teams. It's ridiculous. But anyway, in other news in European Football League, tonight is PSG play Monaco again for the third time in a couple of weeks. 7:45 UK time tonight, and Lens play Metz on Sunday at 2:00. So they're top two in France. Bundesliga. After Bayern Munich won last week at Dortmund, they're 11 points clear. They play Mönchengladbach tonight, but 30-goal man Harry Kane won't be playing, so he is unavailable for the first time in seems absolutely ages. His record of continually being available, whether or not 100% fit, but available, is quite a remarkable record. Just a little thing there. Does he stay at Bayern Munich this year? We don't need to talk about it. And would he go to Barcelona? Because Barcelona are looking to replace Lewandowski. Would Carrick Kane fancy a couple of years on the Spanish coastline there? Anyway, in La Liga, Madrid lost at home on Monday to Getafe, which was always good to see, the little fallouts with that. The big fallout is Rodrigo's done his ACL, so he's out for the best part of the year, misses the World Cup. Tonight they play I think they play Vigo tonight away in Celta Vigo. Atletico Madrid plays Sociedad, and Bilbao host Barcelona on Saturday night. And the games in midweek, Barcelona beat Atletico Madrid 3-0 in a Copa del Rey second leg on Tuesday night, but it wasn't enough. Atletico Madrid won 4-3 in aggregate. Sociedad also went through, so the final of the Copa del Rey, Sociedad Atletico Madrid on the 18th of April, Saturday the 18th of April. Serie A, there's one big game this weekend. Probably doesn't make a difference in the title race, but it's the Milan derby. Technically, AC are at home to Inter Sunday night, 7:45. TNT Sports UK, they're 10 clear as 11 games to go, so it could make a difference, but it probably doesn't. And in Scotland, midweek, Celtic had their game in hand. They went up to Aberdeen, 1-2-1. So now they are only 5 points behind Hearts, and they're 1 point ahead of Rangers. So Hearts got 63, Celtic 58, Rangers 57. Hearts are still favourites for the title. They're 5-4. Celtic are 2-1 and Rangers are 7-2. And there is no Scottish Premiership this week because it's the FA Cup like here in England, sorry. And it's Rangers play Celtic Sunday, 1 p.m. If you want a bit of a laugh how bad Scottish football is, there you go. There's your weekly European roundup.
So one of the stories that caught my eye this week was it looks like Edu is going to be disappearing from Forest. He's been told to stay away. I mean, I wouldn't like to work for Marinakis, honestly. Whether Edu's done a good job or not, it's very difficult in that type of job to know whether someone's done a good job or not, even at this stage. He's hardly been there. But I just thought it was interesting. Forest obviously panicking as well as Tottenham. We obviously have the FA Cup this weekend, kicking off this evening with Wolves Liverpool. So a rematch of Monday night, which is, I always think adds
Tuesday
an interesting.
Night. It was Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Always adds an interesting wrinkle in terms of having seen the two teams play the exact fixture 3 or 4 days before. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by team selections. There's no reason why Wolves shouldn't go full strength. You know, they're not going to stay up. So, you know, why not try and have a cup run? Give your fans something.
And the prices are almost identical as on Tuesday night.
I'd be interested to see what Spot does.
Yeah, I think talking to you last night, I'd like to see Mamradashvili play, but he won't because Slot knows he can't really afford to lose this game, I don't think. So, yeah, they have to play some. I'd imagine Rio Engamara starts, Curtis Jones will start, Gomez will start, Robertson will start. But I can see Katiki starting because Liverpool don't play till Tuesday. So if there is a Saturday game, then I'd imagine they'll make more changes, but they don't play till Galatasaray away on Tuesday. So that extra night rest probably means they go a bit stronger than they would do if it was a Saturday game.
So we have Mansfield Arsenal. I mean, that potentially is on Saturday lunchtime. Can Mansfield pull off a fairy tale? It's so difficult to imagine given how deep Arsenal's bench is, how strong their second team effectively is. They'll make loads of changes, as they should do. Chelsea Wrexham on Saturday, early Saturday evening, 5:45. That will be interesting because, you think that's Chelsea's best chance of winning a trophy this year. And Wrexham have been going great guns. I think they're, sixth in the Championship and good chance of getting to the playoffs.
Be a fun game to watch, I think, because Wrexham and fans will make it quite a loud racket there. So, yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch, Chelsea. They'll probably mix it up. You'll probably see the likes of Delat play, because they obviously play in the Champions League next week as well. So, yeah, but Chelsea want to keep that word momentum going, won't they, after the midweek win?
Newcastle, Man City. I feel like I've seen these teams a lot recently. Yeah, look, Newcastle's schedule has been so brutal. I think one of the problems they have here is that, they've just played with 10 men for 50 minutes, coming off the back of the fixtures that they've had in the last, say, 6 weeks. I mean, it does come a time and a point where they're just exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, they know each other exactly what's going on. Second time they've met in a cup competitions, obviously met in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup only last month. So
they'll play 5 times this season.
So, yeah, I mean, that's remarkable how it goes. Could they play in the Champions League as well? Or they on the other side? No, they could play in the Champions League, couldn't they?
Yeah, they're both on the same side, aren't they? They're on the non-Arsenal side.
Yeah, so they could almost play in the Champions League, yeah. So,
I think we just assume Paris Saint-Germain will knock Newcastle out. And then Sunday, Fulham Southampton, Port Vale Sunderland. I mean, you'd expect both Premier League teams there. Same with Leeds Norwich. And then on Monday night, we have West Ham Brentford. So, and then we're into Champions League, Europa League. I think that's probably enough football for now. Let's just touch briefly.
Right, the draw quickly. The draw is Monday before the Brentford West Ham game, the FA Cup quarterfinal draw, and the quarterfinals are Easter weekend, like the 4th or 5th of April, I think, the quarterfinals. But the draws are Monday night.
So we're not going to do another sports podcast, but I think we do want to mention a couple of events from other sports going into this weekend. One is the cricket. Obviously, it's been, semi-finals this week. We obviously had South Africa, New Zealand, and then England, India. That England-India game was pretty nuts, to be honest, with India scoring 250 odd and England only ending up 7 runs short.
Yeah, so I think there's 499 runs in the game in 40 overs. And there was some stat or something that those scores by both teams were exactly the same scores as the 1987 Cricket World Cup final, which was over, I believe, 50 overs. They changed it from 60 to 50, didn't they? But yeah, that's how the game's moved on. Great spectacle in terms of 4s, 6s, but spare thought for bowlers. Crumbs almighty, why do you want to be a bowler when 55-yard boundaries and these bats are just enormous and miss hits are going 80 metres into third tier? There's a little bit of...
Matches win matches, James.
Harry Brook will be having nightmares about that drop on Sampson on 15 or something like that. It changed the game, not only because the lad got 90-odd and looking in a heck of a touch. Where's he been by the last 2 games? Didn't start the tournament. It's just more that they only lost 1 wicket in the power play and they could continue just whacking through the line because they only lost 1 wicket. If they'd lost 2, another bit of pressure comes on 3, it's a completely different game. And they got 250. England did extremely well. And Jacob Bethel looks an unreal talent. My good God, he looks a generational player, one for the ages. He really does look sensational. All the shots, and most importantly, the temperament as well. No pressure. Well, there's massive pressure. First ball, whacks Bumrah for 6. And he was a difference, Bumrah. He went for nothing, basically, in his 4 overs, 30-odd, which is nothing when it's tourable. And Jofra Archer went for 55, 60. And there's the difference. Boomerang. This isn't a great India side, though, by the way. And New Zealand will fancy their chances. And this is the issue I have with T20 cricket. It only takes one individual, obviously a batsman normally, that can win you the game. Doesn't matter how good your plans are, how everyone else is performing. If a player has his day, they win the game. South Africa, arguably the best team in the tournament, and they ran into Phil Allen, who got 100 off 33 balls.
Yeah,
I mean,
the only thing I'd say, I mean, as great an innings as that was, and that's the fastest 100 in T20.
Yeah.
Was that South Africa was short. South Africa lost early wickets. They actually did pretty well to get up to that total. New Zealand, it was funny watching New Zealand bat because they had so many pieces of luck where edges going over, slips over the, it was just balls landing short of fielders, edges, as I say. I mean, buy yourselves lottery tickets, boys, that opening pair. But, it came off and they won easily in the end.
This is the thing I have with 2020, especially in India. These pitches are batsman friendly. The grounds aren't big enough for the players, the modern players. The bats are too big. The players are too strong as well. And anything offline, they're just whacking through the line. And they're hitting 60-yard boundaries, 60-metre boundaries. It's not big enough. The grounds aren't big enough. And it's not a fair competition between bat and ball, especially on these pitches. And yeah, it's just which batsman has their day on Sunday. It could be an easier 50-50 game. As I said, I don't think it's an India great side. Yeah, they've got arguably the best ODI bowler ever in Bumrah. And his control of line and length and what he wants to do as a ball and spur balls is a joy to watch. But Archie Singh, he can go around the park. They've only got 5 bowlers in the team as well. So if you can get after them like England did yesterday, and that's what New Zealand will try and do, they only trust their 5 bowlers, and you do really need the 6th bowler. So can New Zealand do that on Sunday's final at 1:30 UK time in Ahmedabad? 120,000 people apparently going to be there. It can happen. I think it's a 50-50 game in that kind of thing. Just because India have only got 5 bowlers, and having 5 bowlers to me can cause you massive issues. And it nearly cost India yesterday because the spinner is going round the park. He's just bowling garbage at the moment, and players are just thinking he's bowling 55-mile-an-hour dollies and whacking him out of the park.
So, James, 50-50, you'll lay me 1.8 on it, India, I assume?
I actually haven't looked at the pipe. I imagine India are 1.4 or something, aren't they? I haven't looked. I'll look now, actually. They're 1.44. There you go. But I actually genuinely haven't looked. I think it's 50-50. The way Phil Adams playing, do you not think?
No. I just think India have so many more ways to beat you, generally. We've seen they have so many batsmen there who can get the big scores. I think they're bowling with Bumrah. It's just different class. The spinners are, quality. And what I would say is if India field like they did against England, a couple of the catches and things like that, that makes a massive difference at this level. Normally you associate India with some pretty mediocre fielding, but they took their catches yesterday. Not yesterday. Well, I don't even know what day it was. Was it yesterday? Wednesday. It makes all the difference. But talk to me about rugby, James. We have 6 nations. So what do we have? We have.
So Ireland play Wales tonight, 8:00. So that'll be on the same time as the FA Cup game. Ireland have made a couple of changes. They've brought in Nick Tomey at 7. Conan's back at 6. Burns gone back to second row. They should win that comfortably. They haven't got their full strength side out for whatever reason, but they'll beat Wales tonight comfortably. Wales have got Darren Edwards at 10, replacing the injured Costello. It'll be a comfortable win. If Ireland get up for it mentally and physically, like they did at Twickenham, then they'll win that by, I could easily see that 25-30 point win for Ireland. Scotland versus France tomorrow, Murrayfield, 2:10. Jack Dempsey is back. That's huge for Scotland. Briefly talked about on Monday. He's back at number 8. That's big for them. He's a big physical ball carrier for them. They missed him in Cardiff. He is massive. Can Finn Russell continue his form, or will Dupont and Jalabert control that game? Jalabert is obviously back in the 10 shirt. Ramos has gone back to 15, where he's a genius at 15. Second ball player for France. France have picked a heavy second row, but they've changed their centres again, France. So they've got different combinations at 12 and 13, but it doesn't seem to bother them. It's the best game of the weekend from a stylistic point of view. For a good championship, I want France to win, obviously, because I do want to see Grand Slams. It's good for the sport. A good feel thing. A Grand Slam is a hard thing to achieve, and they are the best team in the Northern Hemisphere, probably the second best team in the world behind South Africa. But there has been a lot of nonsense saying they're the envy of world rugby, their players. The talent pool's in South Africa, lads. They've got all the talent in the world. And then England, can they avoid defeat against Italy and keep their record of being the only team that hasn't lost to Italy in Six Nations? 4:40 Saturday afternoon in Rome. Obviously, they've made a few changes, England, well, more than a few. I think they've made 9, including positional changes. Almost complete new back line. The backs decide the score. The forwards decide who wins the game. And England forwards need to start becoming nasty, physical, on the edge, and start bullying teams again. Stop pandering to this, make it a nasty game, and go on. England are better players than Italy. They are. They just are. But again, I think Italy will fancy their chances. But England need to start better than they have done. I know it sounds ridiculous, but they can't be giving teams 15-point head starts a game. Because if they do, then it's good luck trying to get that back. As we said, if you're slightly off, especially rugby because it's big physical contact sport, England need to make sure they're in the right mindset. And you'll tell pretty quickly, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, what mindset there is. If they're in, and to be honest, there's no excuse not to be in the right mindset. They should have been given an absolute rollicking by the coaching staff. If they're not, and also the players need to have a look at themselves as well. They know they were off, both Scotland and Ireland. I'm pretty nervous, but England's ball playing ability and better players should get them through the game. They just need to win that game.
Okay, let's wrap it up there. We can talk about other sports on Monday. We'll do a separate podcast. I just thought with Cricket World Cup and Six Nations, it was worth just mentioning that. Obviously, we've got big golf from Bay Hill as well. Berger, unbelievable round yesterday, 9 under. So that will finish on Sunday as well. And yeah, we will catch up on Monday with 2 separate podcasts. Enjoy weekend of sport.
Yeah, Luke, do you want to that question that viewer sent in about that you got?
Let's do it on Monday.
Okay.
This podcast is long enough.
Okay. Fair play. Yeah, it's a great weekend of sport, as usual. Lots to think. Yeah. I'll speak to you all in the week or next week. Cheers all.